Wren's breath hitched as the officiant froze, his notes fluttering in the warm Spanish breeze. The villa overlooking the Costa del Sol had been her dream escape, a place where the salty Mediterranean air promised rebirth. Daisy, her fiancé, stood there in that cream silk dress that hugged her like a second skin, her dark waves catching the fading light. At 32, Daisy was the anchor Wren had never known she needed, steady, with those laugh lines etched from years of quiet rebellion, her brown eyes now wide with a plea only Wren could read, "Not here. Not now." But Wren couldn't stop. The words had festered too long, a poison she'd swallowed at 18 and spat back out 1,000 times in therapy sessions that cost more than her student loans. The guests shifted uneasily on their benches carved from reclaimed olive wood, Daisy's artist friends from Brooklyn, Wren's estranged cousin from Seattle, and worst of all, her parents, flown in from Ohio like reluctant pilgrims. Her father, Harlan, with his salt and pepper crew cut and perpetual scowl, leaned forward, knuckles white on his cane. Her mother, Evelyn, clutched her pearls, her lips a thin line of practiced Southern grace. They'd footed the bill for this wedding, a compromise, after years of radio silence, but Wren saw the calculation in their eyes. Let her play house in Spain, she'll come crawling back. I was 17 when they sent me to Camp Horizon, Wren began, her voice steadying as the sea whispered encouragement below. Not a summer camp with esmores and sing-alongs. A conversion camp. In the backwoods of Tennessee, where "pray the gay away" wasn't a punchline, it was a promise they broke on your back. Gasps rippled through the crowd, but Wren pressed on, the hook sinking deeper. Daisy's hand found hers, a lifeline of calloused fingers from years shaping clay in her studio. They'd met there, in that godforsaken place, two girls forged in the same fire. Flashback clawed its way in, unbidden but necessary, like ripping off a scab to see the scar beneath. Wren remembered the Greyhound bus jolting over potholes, her duffel bag stuffed with clothes her mother had packed, modest skirts, no jeans, nothing that encouraged sin. Harlan had driven her to the depot at dawn, his Ford truck reeking of aftershave and unspoken shame. "This is for your own good, Rennie," he'd said, using the nickname that once meant love. "God's got a plan. You'll thank me." She nodded, numb, because fighting meant losing the roof over her head, the college fund he'd dangled like bait. Camp Horizon squatted on 50 acres of pine and prejudice, a cluster of cabins ringed by razor wire disguised as boundaries for reflection. The director, Pastor Elias, greeted arrivals with a smile sharper than his bow tie, mid-40s, all pressed khakis and false warmth. "Welcome, lost lambs," he'd croon, herding them into the mess hall for intake. Wren's group was small that summer, 12 teens, 7 girls, 5 boys, all shipped from Bible Belt towns where difference was a disease. They stripped for purity checks, not literal, thank God, but close enough, with counselors rifling through journals for demonic influences. Wren met Daisy on day 3, during testimony circle. Daisy sat cross-legged on the scratchy wool blanket, her dark hair tied back in a defiant ponytail, arms crossed over a faded Ramones tee she'd smuggled in. At 20, held back a year after coming out to her evangelical folks in rural Georgia, Daisy was the oldest, her eyes holding storms Wren had only glimpsed in movies. "Name's Daisy," she'd muttered when it was her turn, voice low like gravel under tires. "I'm here 'cause my daddy thinks loving girls is like loving the devil. Spoiler, it ain't." The circle tensed, Pastor Elias's pen scratching furiously, but Wren laughed, a real one, the first since the bus. It was the sound of 2 wires sparking in the dark. They weren't supposed to talk after lights out, but cabins were thin-walled secrets. Wren's was girls only, bunked with Sarah, a fragile 16-year-old from Alabama with braces and a Bible verse tattooed on her wrist, "Flee from sexual immorality." Sarah cried herself to sleep most nights, whispering about her girlfriend back home, the one her parents had forbidden. Daisy was in the adjacent cabin, her whispers carrying like contraband smoke signals. "Hey, city girl," she'd call softly through the vent. "You ever seen the stars without all this guilt clouding them?" Wren would press her ear to the grate, heart pounding. "Not yet. But I wanna." Friendship bloomed in stolen moments, passing notes in the chow line, folded into apple cores, sharing contraband gum during exorcism walks, where they'd hike the perimeter chanting psalms that tasted like ash. Daisy taught Ren to whistle, low and lilting, a code for "I'm here." Ren shared stories of her mom's lemon bars, the ones baked with love before the church elders got involved. But beneath it, the camp's machinery ground on. Mornings were reparative therapy, group sessions where Pastor Elias projected slides of normal families, his voice droning about choice and sin. Afternoons, labor details, scrubbing floors while reciting verses on submission. Evenings, accountability partners, where you'd confess temptations to a counselor who logged every word. Ren's first crack came during a fear confrontation exercise. They paired off, staring into each other's eyes for an hour, repeating, "I choose purity over perversion." Her partner was Tommy, a lanky boy from Kentucky with acne-scarred cheeks and a stutter. He broke first, sobbing about his crush on the worship leader. Ren held steady, but inside, rage simmered. That night, Daisy found her by the creek, skipping stones into the moonlit water. "It's bullshit," Daisy said, skipping one that danced 4 times. "They're selling fear like it's salvation. My ma used to say love's the only thing that sticks." They kissed under that same moon, tentative as thieves, a brush of lips that tasted like spearmint gum and forbidden hope. No fireworks, just a quiet unraveling, like the world tilting right for the first time. "We're getting out," Daisy whispered against Ren's neck. "You and me. Spain, maybe. I've got an aunt there, runs a bed and breakfast on the coast. She don't ask questions." Ren pulled back, eyes tracing Daisy's face, the faint scar above her eyebrow from a skateboarding wipeout, the dimple that flashed only for her. "Promise." Daisy nodded, sealing it with another kiss, deeper this time, a vow etched in the humid Tennessee air. But promises in Camp Horizon were paper promises, shredded by dawn. The betrayal started small. Sarah, Ren's bunkmate, caught them holding hands behind the laundry shed. Trembling, she ratted, not out of malice, but terror. "They'll send me home if I don't," she sobbed later, when Ren confronted her. Pastor Elias swooped in like a hawk, separating them for intensive intervention. Daisy vanished into isolation, a bare room with a cot and a Bible chained to the wall. Ren was dragged to corrective prayer, on her knees for hours, counselors laying hands on her shoulders, their voices a cacophony of "Deliver her, Lord." Word came 2 days later, Daisy's parents had been called. They drove down from Georgia, loaded her into their SUV without a goodbye. Ren pounded on the gate as tires crunched gravel, screaming Daisy's name until her throat bled raw. A counselor's arm barred her way. "Let her go, Ren. This is God's mercy." Mercy. The word soured like milk left in the sun. Ren lasted another week before cracking wide open. She slashed her wrists, not deep, not fatal, but enough to force release. The camp's insurance nightmare, her parents' shame. Harlan flew in, face thunderous, bundling her onto a plane back to Ohio. "You did this to yourself," he hissed in the ER, as stitches pulled tight. Evelyn stroked her hair, murmuring prayers, but her eyes were vacant, like she'd buried her daughter that day. Back home, Ren rebuilt in fragments, community college, a waitressing gig at a diner where the tips bought her first real jeans. She searched for Daisy online, social media ghosts, dead ends. Spain became her beacon, a semester abroad at 22 turning into a visa extension, then a teaching job at an international school in Malaga. The coast healed her, waves eroding the scar tissue around her heart. And then, 4 years ago, at a queer art fair in Marbella, there was Daisy, sculpting a clay figure of 2 women entwined, her hands sure as ever. They collided like stars realigning. Daisy had escaped Georgia the hard way, a restraining order after her father's rage, couch-surfing to New York, then Europe on a whim. Her aunt's B&B became home, clay became therapy. "I wrote you letters," Daisy confessed over sangria that first night. "Burned 'em all. Thought you'd hate me for leaving." Wren traced the scar on Daisy's brow. Never. We're survivors, you and me. Love reignited, slower this time, built on ruins. Proposals came in whispers on cliffside walks, rings forged from recycled silver. Daisy shaped herself. The wedding was their triumph, a villa rented for a pittance in off-season, guests a patchwork of expats and allies. But Wren couldn't vow forever without exorcising the past. Not when her parents had shown up, Harlan's check in hand, Evelyn's smile brittle as spun glass. The microphone fed back with a screech, yanking the wedding guests back to the present. Wren's voice echoed off the terracotta walls, the sea a distant roar underscoring her words. Daisy didn't leave me that night. They took her. And Sarah, the girl who turned us in. She hanged herself a month later. 16 years old, a noose from her bunk bed. The camp called it spiritual warfare. I call it murder. Daisy's grip tightened, her thumb stroking Wren's knuckles in that old rhythm. 3 taps, breathe. The crowd fractured, a sob from Wren's cousin, murmurs from Daisy's sculptor friends, and Harlan's chair scraping back like a gunshot. This is inappropriate, he barked, face mottled red under the string lights. Evelyn shushed him, but her eyes darted, calculating escape routes. Pastor Elias's ghost hovered in Wren's mind, his bow tie choking her still. She hadn't planned this unveiling, not exactly. Therapy in Malaga, sessions with a no-nonsense Catalan shrink named Marta, had chipped away the silence. Trauma festers in the dark, Marta said, her accent clipping consonants like shears. Wren journaled it out, the camp's lawsuits buried under NDAs, the alumni groups she'd lurked in on Reddit, stories of overdoses and breakdowns. Sarah's obituary had surfaced last year, a footnote in a Nashville paper, tragic loss to a promising young Christian. No mention of the girlfriend, the camp, the despair. But the real hook, the one that gutted Wren anew, was the money trail. Last month, digging through old emails for wedding vows, she'd found it, a scanned receipt from Harlan's desk drawer, emailed to his church elder in 2008. Camp Horizons, donor package, $5,000 for a full immersion scholarship, plus a line item for enhanced security measures. Security. The razor wire, the isolation rooms. And buried in the fine print, a kickback to the church, 10% for souls saved. Harlan had funded it. Not just her slot, half the girls that summer, handpicked from his congregation's troubled youth referrals. He'd boasted about it once, over Thanksgiving turkey, voice thick with pride, investing in eternity, Rennie. Eternity. Sarah's eternity ended swinging from bed springs, her parents too broken to sue. Wren's voice rose now, carrying over the clink of abandoned wine glasses. Dad, you wrote the check. $5,000 to chain us to crosses we didn't build. You called it love, but it was control. And Sarah paid the price, her life for your ledger. Harlan lurched to his feet, cane clattering. Lies. That camp saved souls. It saved you. Guests parted like the Red Sea as he advanced, Evelyn trailing, her heels clicking a frantic Morse code. Daisy stepped forward, a wall of quiet fury. Sit down, sir. This ain't your pulpit. At 32, she'd grown into her edges, shoulders broad from hauling clay, voice honed by open mics in Brooklyn basements. Harlan faltered, eyes flicking to the sea as if it might swallow him. You don't understand, he muttered. The devil's in the details. I did it for family. Family. The word twisted like a knife. Flashback surged again, pulling Wren under, post-camp Ohio, where normalcy was a straitjacket. High school blurred into survival, head down, grades up, prom with a boy named Chad whose hand stayed chaste because Wren willed it so. Harlan's church became her prison yard, youth group Wednesdays, sermons on submission Sundays. Evelyn baked lemon bars still, but they tasted of obligation, served with Bible studies on Eve's temptation. College was the first fracture. State U in Columbus, a scholarship Harlan approved because co-eds keep you straight. Wren roomed with Becca, a theater major with a rainbow flag on the door and a laugh like church bells. They stayed up late dissecting the L word, Becca's arms slung casual over Wren's shoulders. The first time Wren kissed a girl, for real, not camp desperation, it was Becca, in the dorm laundry room, quarters spilling from her pocket like confetti. Guilt crashed in after, a tidal wave of what would Dad say. She ghosted Becca, buried in books, but the seed sprouted, late-night Google searches for ex-gay survivor, forums alive with voices like hers. Graduation brought a rude awakening. Harlan's gift, a job at his auto parts firm, a cubicle with a cross on the wall. Build character, he said. Wren lasted 6 months, faking smiles through inventory logs, before the breakdown. Nights curled in her childhood bed, the same one where she'd prayed away dreams of Daisy's hands. Evelyn found her once, sobbing over a photo from the camp yearbook, Wren and Sarah arm in arm at a picnic, smiles brittle as autumn leaves. Pray harder, honey, Evelyn whispered, tucking the covers. But prayer felt like shouting into a void. Spain called like a siren song. Wren applied on impulse, her advisor chuckling, Malaga. Bold for a Buckeye. The plane touched down in summer heat, jasmine thick in the air, and for the first time, Wren breathed without the weight of Harlan's gaze. She taught English to expat kids, American brats with trust funds, Spanish locals with fire in their veins. The coast wove its magic, sunsets painting the Sierra Nevada pink, tapas bars buzzing with queer laughter. She dated a flamenco dancer with hips like poetry, a British painter who sketched her nude but never saw her soul. Fleeting, all of it, until Daisy. Their reunion at the Marbella Fair was fate's cruel joke, or its kindest. Wren wandered the stalls, drawn to a sculpture of 2 figures locked in eternal gaze, one kneeling, the other reaching. The artist's sign, Daisy Ruiz, Survivor Series. Heart-hammering, Wren bought it on credit, then lingered until closing. Daisy emerged from her tent, wiping clay from her jeans, and froze. Wren. Holy shit. They talked till midnight at a chiringuito on the beach, feet in the sand, sangria loosening tongues. Daisy had clawed her way free. After the camp snatch, she'd hot-wired her resolve, run away at 19 to Atlanta, waitress through art school nights. New York broke her open, gigs and lofts, lovers who came and went like subway trains. Spain was rebirth, her aunt's B&B in Nerja, a kiln in the garden, community in the Saturday markets. We match now, Daisy joked that night, tracing the faint scars on Wren's wrists, her own hidden under a leather cuff. Love grew roots there, in paella Sundays and midnight swims. Daisy proposed on a hike above Rhonda, the gorge yawning below like the camp's abyss. Marry me, Wren Harper. Let's make our own eternity. The ring was rough-hewn silver, engraved with a star, their creekside constellation. Planning the wedding was joy laced with dread. Daisy wanted bohemian, barefoot on the grass, wildflowers, a playlist of Joan Baez and Halsey. Wren dreamed American, apple pie for dessert, vows under an arch of olive branches. They compromised, the villa in Mijas, a DJ spinning both. Invites went out patchwork, Daisy's queer chosen family, Wren's few blood ties. Harlan and Evelyn's RSVP came last, with a check for 10 grand and a note, proud of you, despite. The word festered. Now, under the lights, it erupted. Harlan loomed, voice a whip crack. Enough. This is your day, Wren. Don't ruin it with old ghosts. Ruin. As if he hadn't. Wren stepped closer, the bouquet forgotten at her feet. Ghosts? Sarah's ghost haunts me every day. She was kind, Dad. Shy. Wrote poetry about sunflowers and her girl, Ellie. You funded the place that told her she was broken. That her love was a curse. Evelyn whimpered, hand to mouth. Harlan, please. Let's go. But Wren wasn't done. And it wasn't just her. The camp's still open, you know. New name, same poison. I called them last week, pretended to be a donor. They're hurting kids right now, with your old playbook. Lies. Half-truths, pieced from survivor sites and a journalist's podcast Ren devoured. But the core was iron. Harlan's check had greased the wheels. Daisy drew Ren back, murmuring, "Babe, breathe." The officiant cleared his throat, glancing at his watch. Guests murmured, some nodding fierce support, others edging toward the valet. A cell buzzed, Ren's cousin, filming discreetly for the group chat. This was viral fodder, a TikTok tragedy in the making. But Ren felt lighter, the hook releasing its barbs. Harlan deflated, sinking to his bench. God, I thought it helped. His voice cracked, the first real fracture Ren had seen. Evelyn knelt beside him, tears carving tracks through her makeup. We were scared, Rennie. For you. For us. Scared. Of pew whispers, of heaven's locked gates. Human, in their frailty, the same frailty that built empires of pain. Ren knelt too, the grass cool under her knees, echoing camp circles. Scared isn't an excuse. But it's a start. Daisy joined them, a circle of three, awkward, raw, the sea sighing forgiveness. The officiant waited, notes in hand. Shall we continue? The vows came halting, reshaped in the fire of revelation. Ren faced Daisy, the altar's candles flickering like hesitant stars. I vow to hold your hand through every shadow, to whistle back in the dark, to build with you a life no one can fund or fence. Daisy's eyes shimmered, voice steady as clay on a wheel. I vow to reach for you always, to shape our hurts into something beautiful, to love you fierce, like the girl I met by the creek, unchanged, unbreakable. Ring slid on, Daisy's silver band warm from her pocket, Ren's etched with a sunflower for Sarah. The officiant pronounced them wed, the crowd erupting in a mosaic of cheers and sniffles. Daisy's friends hooped, popping corks on kava. Ren's cousin hugged her tight, whispering, brave as hell. Harlan and Evelyn lingered at the edge, ghosts in the revelry. He offered a nod, stiff, but there, before Evelyn pulled him toward the exit, her arm looped in his like an anchor. The reception spilled onto the villa's terrace, lanterns swaying in the breeze, the sea a black velvet canvas below. Tables groaned under paella and empanadas, a playlist shifting from at last to girls just wanna have fun. Ren and Daisy danced their first as wives, slow, swaying, foreheads pressed. You okay? Daisy murmured, breath warm on Ren's ear. Yeah. Lighter. It was true, the unveiling had been a dam breaking, floodwaters carrying debris to sea. But the night twisted gentle. Harlan cornered Ren by the dessert table, apple pie cooling on a stand like Ohio irony. His cane tapped nervous rhythm. That check. I tore up the church's copy years ago. After your incident. The slashes. Ren forked pie, steam rising. Why'd you come, then? If it's all regret. He glanced at Evelyn, laughing brittle with Daisy's and over sangria. Her idea. Said we owed you a witness. Even if it hurts. Hurt. The word hung, a bridge or a bomb. Ren chewed slow. Sarah's parents sued, you know. Settled quiet. Camp rebranded, Eagle's Grace now. Still fleecing families. Harlan's jaw worked. I donated to a survivor fund last year. Anonymous. $5,000. Echo of the old sin, redeemed in shadow. Not absolution, but a step, human, halting. Ren nodded, the pie tart on her tongue. Tell Mom. And next time, skip the NDAs. He huffed a laugh, ghost of the dad who'd pushed her on swings. Deal. They parted awkward, his hand brushing her shoulder, a touch not quite forgiveness, but close. Dawn crept in rosy, guests thinning to diehards nursing coffees. Daisy and Ren slipped away to a hammock strung between cypresses, toes tangled, the world soft-edged. Think they'll thaw? Daisy asked, tracing Wren's wedding band. Maybe. Or maybe we build without them. Spain stretched before them, lessons in olive harvests, siestas under figs, a school where Wren taught not just English, but resilience. Daisy's studio expanded, Survivor Series 2, figures of women rising from clay waves. Months blurred into rhythm. A letter came from Ohio, Evelyn's script, lemon bars recipe enclosed, no sermons. Harlan called once, gruff, heard you're expecting a visit. Got a spare room? Wren hesitated, then, always. Not erasure, but evolution, the camp scars fading to silver threads, weaving strength. Sarah's memory lingered, a quiet vigil. Wren started a blog, Creek Whispers, anonymous tales from exiles. Donations trickled for legal funds, voices amplifying. One entry, for Sarah, you were the sunflower in our circle, bold and quiet. Your light bent but never broke. We carry it now. In Nerja's markets, Wren and Daisy bartered for figs, hands linked shameless. Tourists snapped photos, mistaking them for locals. Wives, Daisy would say, dimple flashing. Lucky ones. The sea approved, waves applauding eternal. Years on, the villa wedding became legend, told at barbecues, etched in a scrapbook Daisy bound in leather. Harlan visited twice, Kane traded for a walker, stories softening over paella. Evelyn baked bars that tasted of home, not obligation. Betrayal's price paid in increments, apologies whispered, checks rerouted to healing. Wren, at 29, stood taller, teacher, writer, wife. Daisy sculpted a final piece, two women at an altar, shadows yielding to light. Unveiled, she titled it. Sold to a museum in Madrid, plaque reading, for the ones who paid, and those who rose. In the end, the price wasn't just Sarah's, or Daisy's stolen nights, or Wren's wrists. It was the humanity reclaimed, flawed families mending, love's unapologetic, a world tilting toward grace. Under Spanish stars, Wren whistled low. Daisy whistled back. And the ghosts? They faded, gentle as tide.